And finally, warring sides in eastern Ukraine call a new ceasefire, raising hopes for an end to the 4-year fighting between Kiev and pro-Russian forces. A Ukrainian official says a truce will go into effect on Sunday. The two sides reached an agreement at a meeting of the contact group for Ukraine. The group brings together all relevant parties to the conflict. Earlier, the Ukrainian army said it lost 4 soldiers in clashes with pro-Russian forces over the past 24 hours. The conflict began in March 2014. 10,000 people have died ever since. Now to discuss that more, we are joined by Tony Gosling, investigative journalist from Bristol. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. But what is your take on this current announcement? We've seen announcements like this going on over the past 4 years, but the thing is that the ceasefires don't keep up. Do you think this one is a reliable one? It will continue?
Well, there's every chance of that, and it's amazing, isn't it? It looks like world peace is breaking out in the Korean Peninsula and in the east of Ukraine. But what this worries, the thing that worries me about this is obviously peace is not breaking out in Syria, and it's not breaking out in Yemen. And let's not forget that the Yemen conflict is inextricably tied up with Syria. The Yemen conflict is really just a side issue to the despotism in Saudi Arabia, and it is a desperate attempt to stop the Arabian Peninsula overthrowing the Saudi royal family, who are key in what's going on in Syria. They've been involved, of course, in funding ISIS, etc. So I think there is actually a bigger thing going on here, is that the conflicts that aren't related to Syria are actually cooling down around the world, in North Korea and in Eastern Europe, and that's possibly a good thing for those regions, but it's not a good thing for the Middle East.
Why not?
Because it looks to me as if everything is it's like a kind of pressure cooker getting hotter and hotter in Syria, because the Americans and the NATO countries and the Saudis absolutely believed that they had won in Syria with the territorial gains due to their proxy forces, ISIS, and they cannot let go. The reason they can't let go is the power of the Israel lobby, particularly in the United States, is not going to allow that, because the Israelis want to keep pressure on Syria. The Israelis would like to expand. They have no intention of giving up disputed territory like the Golan Heights. And so whilst they're very good for other parts of the world, this stuff, it does not bode well for the Middle Eastern conflict, which shows no signs of going away, and it shows no signs of any kind of common sense from the militaries, from the politicians and the lobbyists in the NATO countries and in Israel to cool down the Middle East, which we desperately need, because it's a potential explosive point which could bring in the superpowers like the Chinese even, and the Russians and the Americans to fight in Syria. We don't want to see that.
So basically, as far as the ceasefire between Ukraine and pro-Russian forces is concerned, do you believe that this one is a reliable one and it will continue?
Yeah, I think there's every chance it will. Look at what's the history of the east of Ukraine. We are told here in the West by all of our fake news media that the Crimea has been annexed by Russia. That's just simply a lie. In March 2014, there was a referendum of the Crimean people, and they overwhelmingly, by a 95% majority, think about the Brexit majority of 52%, right? This is a 95% majority, wanted to stay with Russia. They were not interested in being ruled by Kiev, where there'd just been a coup the previous month. So, you know, there was the February 2014 Maidan coup, and then a great leap forward a year afterwards with the Minsk Protocol in February 2015. And that really, the Minsk Protocol really does set out what the future should be. That is to say that the Ukrainian people themselves, both in Crimea and in the Donbass, should be deciding for themselves which side they wish to be on. And it's quite clear in the Donbass region and in Crimea that the people want to stay with the Russians. It was a part of Russia Crimea, or the Soviet Union Crimea, which was given away in a drunken fit by previous Soviet leaders. And actually they are ethnically Russian, they speak Russian, and they were being told by Kiev that you're not allowed to speak the Russian language. So it was a bit of a no-brainer as to which side they were going to be on, and they've obviously decided to put the Moscow flag very firmly on the Crimean and the Donbass mast.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Tony Gosson, investigative journalist, joining us from Bristol.